each type has a signature and a not self theme. And so this is going to be your telltale sign if you're lining up with your aura or not. And so as a generator or manifesting generator, your strategy is to respond. And if you are responding, you are getting this feeling of satisfaction, meaning my energy wants to go there. I put my energy there. I exhausted my energy there, and I feel so satisfied by it. And your not self theme as a generator, manifesting generator, is frustration. And thus, I don't know where to put my energy because I'm not waiting to respond. I'm going out and I'm initiating things, and I'm getting confused and I'm getting overwhelmed. And now I'm going into all my not self centers, right? So that is what's going to tell you if you're lining up with your aura or not.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we're all about mixing tried and true strategies that actually work with the magic of manifestation and the science of programming your unconscious mind so that you walk away feeling integrated, inspired, and aligned. I'm Renee Bowen, certified life and business coach, professional photographer, middle-aged wife, and mom to now 3 grown kids. I've built 2 multiple 6-figure businesses with 0 business training by digging in, learning the methods, and now I'm here to pass them all on to you. From photography and business strategies to energy healing, human design, and the basics of manifestation, we cover it all here. I'm here to help you embrace your multi-passionate brains and lean into the fastest and most efficient ways to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, or maybe you're just here for the woo-woo, let's dive in and explore all the exciting ways to take your life, business, and self-improvement to the next level. Thanks for joining me, and get ready to be inspired. Welcome back to the show, guys. We are talking about human design today. Now, if you have no idea what human design is, that's okay. We're going to explain it. And even if you have some knowledge of human design, this is also going to be a really super informative discussion because I have a certified human design reader and coach on the show today. She specializes in providing really practical tools for managing your energy and making aligned decisions so that you can live by design and feel really good. And in fact, her brand is called The Feel Good Expert, and that's where you can find her across the board, everywhere online. I've got everything listed for you, by the way, in the show notes. So thefeelgoodexpert.com. Her name is Tangie, and she is absolutely amazing. So if you know anything about human design, she's a projector and I'm a generator, and we have a really cool discussion about how we can use our design to show up better in our creative businesses and in our lives and to feel more aligned. She also speaks to a lot of the different centers, undefined versus defined, and how we can really lean into our strengths and live better lives living in our design. So if you have no idea what human design is about, that's totally fine. She is going to dive into an overview for us right off the bat. And then we're going to talk about lots of other pieces of human design. It would be impossible to cover everything because it is such a deep topic. I mean, we could be talking for probably, 12 hours and still be touching the surface. But we cover some really, really great points. And especially for those of you who are just either starting to get interested in it or, like my coaching students are diving into it because I'm sort of guiding them through the first processes of it. So wherever you are on your human design path and learning about it, you're going to get a lot from this episode. I'm not going to bore you any longer. Let's dive right in. Here's Tangie and my discussion with her all about human design. Hey, Tangie, thanks for being here. I've got the Feel Good Expert, human design. We are talking about human design today, something that I am really, really into. And if you guys don't have a lot of knowledge about it, you're about to. So Tangie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Renee. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you. I found you on TikTok, as you know, my favorite platform. Tangie's awesome because she goes live on TikTok a lot. And that's something that I know a lot of my audience is really nervous to do a lot. So let her be an example for you. But we're going to talk about human design. We're going to talk a lot about how that pertains to us as creative entrepreneurs and what it all means. But give us just the sort of 30,000 overview for people who don't really know what human design is. Just give us a little spiel about what it is and why it's useful.
Well, one of the funniest descriptions that I ever heard of human design is that it's like astrology on steroids. And so, you can look at a natal chart and be overwhelmed. Like you could just look at astrology in general and be like, holy crap, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then you look at a human design chart and you're like, go away with that. Like the first time someone showed me a human design chart, I said, that looks like geometry and I am not good at math and I want nothing to do with that. Like it's so much. But the cool thing about human design and why it does look so intricate is that is informed by so many different ancient systems that have been useful for people over the years, as far as managing their energy, understanding transits, understanding cycles, understanding the nature of life and what it is to be human and what are we even doing here, right? So human design is informed by Western astrology, the I Ching, which is ancient Chinese divination, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and Kabbalah. So when you put all of those four together, that's kind of why you see this crazy looking body graph. We also add in some human biology in conjunction with the chakras and, some quantum physics, science stuff, neutrinos, when we talk about transits and how energy moves through us. So it's super fascinating, and it is the rabbit hole to end all rabbit holes. Like I've been studying for years and years and years, and I still feel like I'm brand new, right? It still looks so exciting and interesting to me every time I see it. And every time I see a chart and interact with someone, I learn something that I didn't know before. The way that human design is different than other systems that you see is that we not only tell you exactly what to do with your energy, right? We give you this strategy of managing your specific aura, and we give you this solid way to make decisions and get out of these patterns of overthinking that we all get into. But in human design, we create this balance between the conscious and unconscious. In human design, we have two dates that we go off. We go off of your birth date, which is what you see in astrology and also what you kind of observe in all of these personality tests. It reinforces who you think you are. But we add in this balance of the unconscious. We take 88 degrees of the sun prior to your birth date and cross-reference it. And so we say, well, here's your mind, here's your consciousness, but also here's your unconsciousness. Here's your ancestry, here's your DNA, here's the physical vessel that you're operating with. How do we bridge those two and operate in a way that feels very aligned, in a way that feels very natural and gets us away from all of this conditioning and all of these ways that we try to compare ourselves to others and make ourselves something that we're not.
I love that explanation.
So,
okay.
30,000 foot. That was kind of long.
No, it's really cool because I've heard it explained on like lots of different podcasts and things like that. I rarely ever hear anybody really kind of touch on that conscious and unconscious. And I love that because that's really, it's so unique. It makes it so unique in that way. Because yes, I'm an astrology geek. Like I was that girl in college who had all my astrology books out, and when we came back from the bar, my friends and I would all try and like, who did we know? Did we find out his birthday? That's who I always was. And so you're right though. When I first learned about human design, I was like, oh, that's really cool because it is like astrology on steroids. And that's such a perfect description. But I looked at the body graph and I was like, oh, hell no, I can't, like my brain can't compute that. I just want someone to tell me what this means. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that even you, who's been at this for a long time, is still discovering new stuff about it. Because sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, I have a really good understanding about it, and I like to use it with my coaching clients to help them. And then sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what this means. Like, what am I doing with my life? So I want to it would be impossible for us to dive like super, super deep into all of this in a podcast, but I definitely want to at least give some people who've never had any, touch points with human design yet, at least a starting point, right? So first of all, you guys, I will put in the show notes, where you can get your chart, You do need to know your time of birth and where you were born. And so that could be a good starting point for you. And so get that, and you can kind of look at that as you're listening to this episode, if you like, because then things are going to start to make a little bit more sense if you've never seen your chart and your body graph and all of that kind of stuff. So real quick, there's 5 energy types. Yes?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about that, the main thing, and then touch a little bit like on strategy authority. And then we'll get into some like deeper questions about how we can use it.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is perfect because, again, as we were saying, you look at this human design chart and you're like, oh no, oh no, right? But in human design, we always reinforce that there's really nothing to do except strategy and authority. You don't have to research your entire chart. You don't have to figure things out. You don't have to like force yourself to become this or put yourself into a box. And I see a lot of times people will look at the specifics of their chart and they'll be like, well, this is what my digestion says, but that's not what I do. So am I wrong? No, absolutely not. Not wrong. It's all an experiment. And so strategy and authority tells us how to manage our energy because our aura has a certain shape and expression. And it tells us how to make a decision that is aligned with that energy. So there are 5 different types in human design and 4 different auras. So generators and manifesting generators are 2 different types, but they have the same auric shape and expression. And that is an aura that is inviting and enveloping and very open. So generators are always pulling opportunities and people toward them. And so your strategy as a generator is to wait to respond simply because you have this aura that is always being very magnetic and pulling things in. So as soon as you have that awareness, you start to kind of open your eyes to your environments and the people around you, and you start to see what's coming toward me. And what does my gut say about that? Do I feel filled with life force about this? Is this something that I want to commit my energy to? Because if it is, if it makes me feel excited and I commit my energy, I get to this feeling of deep satisfaction. And this is both generators and manifesting generators. But if I allow my mind to take over and I don't listen to my gut response, if I don't let my body lead here, then I take myself down all of these paths of frustration. Like I always am trying to find the most logical thing, and I'm always trying to figure things out, and I'm always questioning my body and my interactions with others. So a generator is all about like being magnetic, being excited, being in your element, pulling things towards you, and then saying, okay, do I have the energy for this? Does my gut want to go with me on this? So that's the most common aura type. About 70% of people are either a generator or a manifesting generator. The less common types have their sacral center undefined, meaning like not colored in. And anything that's not colored in your chart is not consistent for you. So someone like me who is a projector, I might get excited about things, but I don't get to that deep satisfaction that a generator would get if I get excited and I follow that. That confuses me because it's inconsistent. What a projector is meant to do by having their sacral undefined is to absorb. We have a very absorbing aura. We're meant to absorb others' auras and then really focus on it, because with our undefined sacral, we're able to create these efficiencies. We can see what you're doing with all of your energy as a generator or any other type. And we can say, here's a way to make that more efficient. Here's a way to use your energy in a systematic way that will help you. And we can guide you through this process because we are not in our energy of all of that sacral desire and life force and creation and procreation. We actually have this center open. And so we're here to absorb the energy of others and find ways to make it more efficient and to create systems around that. So the projector aura is absorbing and focused. We focus right in on the G center of the other, which means when we give guidance that is unsolicited, we make people question who they are and where they're going in life and what they love and why. So this is the reason that a strategy for a projector is to wait for the invitation. Because if we don't wait for the invitation and we offer something unsolicited and we absorb someone's aura and we try to do something with it, it can be very abrupt. It can feel like very, uninvited for the receiver. So in the meantime, we pull all of our energy back. We focus on our areas of expertise and what systems we're interested in and how we can manage our energy and others. And then when we receive an invitation that's aligned for us, that's where we're able to commit our energy to creating these efficiencies. So that's the projector aura. Manifestor auras are very special and unique. So, and projectors are about 20% of the population. Manifestors are like 10%. 10-ish%. And manifestors are the only type that are designed to initiate. They initiate us, they get things started, they manifest things into reality, and everybody's like, ooh, I want that. But when you talk to a manifestor, it's really a very challenging place to be in, because a lot of times doing something that has never been done before makes the people closest to you want to like hold you closer. It makes them want to stop you, right? It makes them want to protect you, but you're like, no, I know my energy is taking me here. It's an impulse. I can't not do it. And the people closest to you are like, no, you can't do that. That's too abrupt. That's too big of a change. That's brand new. That's scary for us. And so the manifestor strategy, because of the way that aura works, it's closed. Okay. It's closed and repelling, because they need to be able to start something brand new without outside input. They have this closed and repelling aura. And so their strategy is to inform. They have to tell the people around them what the heck is going on. You have to keep the people closest to you in the loop so that they don't try to stop you. Because when a manifestor feels like they're controlled or inhibited, or like someone's trying to stop them from initiating, either they get really, really super angry, or they go into these people-pleasing modes that keep them from fulfilling their purpose. So that one's super interesting, a super interesting aura type. So as a manifestor, you're here to get things started. And I know from my own experiment that I've been initiated by manifestors so many times. They will get us on a path. They will help us see something that we didn't see before. The last and the least common type is a reflector, and it's like 1% of the population. So reflectors are different than 99% of us. And that's because all of their energy centers in their chart are undefined. They're not colored in. And a reflector's like, oh my gosh, that sucks. Like I have no energy. I have nothing to offer. But the opposite is true. Any energy center that's not colored in your chart can be a great potential source of wisdom. And so reflectors are able to go in and be very wise about their environments when they don't allow their environments to overwhelm them, or when they don't allow their relationships to overwhelm them. So a reflector has a very sampling and resistant aura. They have the ability to show up somewhere and say, okay, what's here? And what sources of wisdom are here? And who needs to be included in this environment? And when they embody that powerfulness and that resistant and sampling way that their aura works, they start to become these people that like you just cannot resist, right? You want to be around them because they are a beautiful reflection of who you are and what you have going on. Reflectors really tell us how well things are going. But when a reflector becomes attached to an outcome, and they expect things to go a certain way, they end up in these feelings of disappointment. Reflectors are meant to show up and be surprised and really inclusive and tell us, hey, what's going on here, right? Because they can feel energy in a way that no other type can. So it's kind of the brief overview of the 4 different auras.
I love it. Yeah, because a lot of times we hear about the 5 different types, which you just talked about too, but the aura is really what defines that energy type. That's what it really means to be like, whether you're living in your design, if you're in alignment, if it feels good, it has to do with that aura. And a lot of people don't really, I think, kind of look at it through that lens sometimes. But when I first started learning about this, so first of all, I'm a generator, as you know, because you have my chart. My husband's a manifesting generator, and my oldest son is a Manny-Gen, but my other 2 kids, my twins, are projectors. And when I found this out, and because I didn't really know any of this until a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago or so. And I started looking into what that all means. I just really wish I would have known that they were projectors when they were so much younger. And so like, if you're a parent listening to this, like it is a really powerful thing to look into. It's a tool that you can use with your kids, because as a generator, I'm a doer, man. Like I can work, and I love my work. Like when I'm doing what I love, I can do it all day, every day. I have this unending energy source. And, I was one of those people that people would always tell me like, how do you do everything that you do? And I was like, I don't know. I just do. Like I had no explanation for that. And then once I figured out that it was because I was a generator and I made my own source of energy there, and it was because I was doing something I loved, it made sense. But my twins, the projectors, very much very different. My husband, total man-gen, total ADD, like actor, writer, director, all artists, like fully artist. And so the two of us as parents, it's a lot. Like we're a lot. We're both very type A, and we would always take our kids on these like insane vacations where we would go like on these, 25-day road trips across the entire United States. And then we would have like 15, 20 minutes in each thing. We're like, okay, saw it, did it. Like we were just like running around constantly. When my twins got to be like 16, they were like, no more of this. Like we need rest. We cannot keep up with you. Why are you doing this to us? And we thought, we were like, oh, we just want to show you guys all the things. And, it was exciting to us, but not realizing that, oh my God, those projectors, we were like burning them the F out. And the poor twins. So now as adults, it makes so much sense, because I remember my husband saying so many times, he's like, why do they sleep all the time? What's going on? Like, are they okay? Like, because we just don't require that much rest, but they do. And now as adults, it's like, I'm always telling them, like, you guys need to prioritize your rest. You need to like understand that you were not meant to do all that stuff, and that asking for the invitation as well, because my daughter is one of those people who will just jump right in and be like, you should not be doing it like this. And it definitely doesn't need to be done like that. But now as an adult, she's like, okay, I'm going to just wait until somebody like really asks me for that input before I jump in, and it serves her so much better. So I love like all of these little different aspects of learning, even just about the energy type. Even if you look at your human design and you can't even fathom getting into all the different pieces, just even knowing and honoring your energy type and your aura is a huge, huge impact on your life. I know that you would agree with that, especially as a projector. You probably you guys make such great leaders, but you need a little bit more, rest than the most of us, right?
Exactly. And that's such a perfect example. And I'm so glad that you described it that way, because like I was mentioning with the aura types, we don't have the defined sacral, but we see out in society, 70% of people, most people do. Most people are doing it this way, right? Most people are able to commit all of this energy and all of this passion and all of this desire and all of this excitement. And we're like, I want to be excited too. And so we really, really try to keep up. And a lot of times what a projector will do, if they have any other motors defined, they will go and burn those out. They'll try to make the other motors that they have. There are 4 motors in the body graph. There's the ego center, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. They're kind of like bottom right. They'll just turn to the other motor and they'll try to make it work like a sacral. They'll try to say, well, I'm excited, so I have to. And the other thing that we do in any chart, any type, the other thing that we do in our undefined centers, the ones that are not colored in, these are like our playground, right? Like we're able to play with it. We're able to experience it, but we have to learn to let it go when it's not there. So what a lot of times I'll see, my clients and people I do readings for, what I'll see them do is pull in that energy, right? In a relationship or an environment or a transit. And they say, wow, that feels so good. I like it, right? So a projector, a manifestor, a reflector, they might have this burst of productivity when they're around a certain person or during a certain transit. And they're like, I like that. That makes me feel worthy, right? That makes me feel happy. That makes me feel excited. That makes me feel good. I like that. Let me try to keep it. And they'll try to hold on to it, and they'll try to force their energy to do something that isn't consistent for them. And so when it goes away and they cannot make their body reproduce it, they feel ashamed, right? They feel unworthy. They feel like, oh my God, they get into their not enoughness. And so what we teach in human design is to be able to have the awareness, just have the awareness of what's consistent for you and what isn't. And say, I can rely on this and this I can't. And when this shows up, I can play with it and I can be excited about it. And I can say, oh, so happy you're here. And when it leaves, I can say goodbye. I don't have to cling to this idea that I'm supposed to be productive all of the time, right? I don't have to cling to this idea that I'm supposed to have willpower and motivation all of the time. I don't have to cling to this idea that, I'm supposed to be always so deep and thorough around things and create all of this depth and contrast in life and really feel through everything. I don't have to feel like I'm always creating momentum and taking the next step. I can let that energy kind of wax and wane as it will, depending on my unique expression.
No, it's such a great point. And I'm always talking about, using this as a tool in your tool belt, a tool in your self-awareness tool belt, um, it's really about that awareness of like, is this right for me? Does this feel good? And, as we sort of come out of this hustle culture, right? Like we've been in that for so long. You're right. Like we live in this like generator, manifesting generator sort of world. Like we do make up most of the population too, but also that hustle culture and like you got to do all the time. We've kind of been stuck in that for a while, but in the last couple of years, where stuff is changing, we're shifting, and people are starting to have more of an awareness. And I love that human design supports us in that. The more that you learn about that, even as a generator though, right? Because that's one of the things that I had to learn about my chart. Like, yeah, just because I have the capacity to do it and I have this sort of like, never ending source of energy, it seems like when I'm doing something that I do not like and I don't feel aligned with and is not a yes for me, I'm going to not be okay. And I think a lot of us, regardless of our energy type and aura, but even as generators, we are drawn to that. And this is the trap I see a lot with generators, especially, and mani gens, because I work most of my coaching clients, shocker, are manifesting generators or generators because, that's just like the creative brain and everything. And one of the things that I see is that we just get stuck in that. We get stuck in this, well, I can do it, so I might as well. And I can take it on. And no one else can do it as good as I can anyway. So I'm going to do it. I see that when it comes to like not outsourcing work, not getting help, not hiring help soon enough, all of that stuff, it's all tied into it. It was like, well, I can do it and I can do it better than anybody else. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And then we run ourselves into the ground. And so even when you have that capacity, you can do that. So let's talk a little bit about burnout because this comes up a lot, right? Like, especially with creative entrepreneurs, I see it in what I do a lot. You probably see it a lot in your clients as well. How can human design help creative entrepreneurs really navigate and manage that stress and burnout?
Yeah, I'm so glad you gave that example because just as easily as you can absorb and amplify energy in your undefined centers, you can be deeply conditioned in your defined centers. So even if it's consistent for you, a lot of times what will happen with someone with a defined sacral is someone outside of you will observe your energy and they'll say, well, you have the energy. And then they will try to exploit your energy, right? And take advantage of all of that energy that you have and try to get you to do something that you're not lit up by because there is evidence of the fact that you have energy or have had energy for something in the past. And it works with all of the energy centers to where we can observe that it was there once. And thus let's reinforce it, right? Let's make it be, right? And we do that a lot just in society in general, right? Just over exploitation of resources. Like that's what we do.
Yeah.
And you kind of touched on this in your last comment. We're shifting. Like all of society, all of this planet is going through some massive shifts. We're starting to observe the things that really don't work anymore. And in human design, knowledge, there's a massive shift that is meant to happen in 2027. So we are going from all of this generated energy and this, it's called the cross of planning, right? Always having all of these structures in place and having this hierarchical type of society to something that is a little bit more of a wake up call, right? To be able to say, well, what do we really need? And who are we really? And what really serves the individual? And how does the individual work in conjunction with this whole society is more of a moving part and less of like a pawn. So burnout, yes, I see it so much. And it goes right into what we were already talking about of like trying to make something inconsistent, consistent. And so I can give, a personal example. I have one motor in my chart. I only have two centers that are colored in and they're two of the bottom ones, the spleen and the root. And then everything above that is not colored in. And so I have 7 centers where I'm absorbing and amplifying everything and everybody all of the time. And then I have these two little things that are consistent for me. And I found before I learned human design earlier in life, I tried to make my root be a sacral. I tried to be excited. I tried to be a hustler. I tried to make my root be an ego center. I tried to be motivated. I tried to have willpower. And I was constantly trying to like shame myself for not being more motivated and not being more consistent and not showing up, right? And not being competitive and not even caring to be competitive. I tried to make my solar plexus my root, and say, you know, well, I'm not thorough enough. I don't spend enough time on things. I get distracted too easily. I don't stay with it. I don't stick with it like I could. And so what happens when you put all of that pressure on one specific energy center that has its own specific function and expression is that you burn it out, right? you make it work too hard. It can't do what it's supposed to do. And for me, that led to complete adrenal fatigue, then adrenal exhaustion, and then adrenal burnout. I couldn't keep my eyes open, couldn't function. And my immune system was simultaneously failing. Like I just couldn't stay well. I couldn't stay healthy. And if you look at my chart from an outside perspective, you're like, well, those are the two centers that you have defined. Like, why would you be sick in the two centers that are consistent for you? And it's because I overtaxed them and I tried to make myself everything for everyone all of the time. And so the way to avoid burnout is to, first of all, understand your aura and how it expresses, right? I spent so much time in bitterness because I wasn't feeling recognized and I couldn't figure out, you know, who I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing and what do I love, right? I'm going to all of my undefined centers and trying to make them tell me something that they can't. And then, you know, going to your authority, second of all, which is the way that you make decisions. Again, we'll look at our undefined centers, the things that are not colored in, and we'll try to decide from there. We'll try to use the crown to create clarity, right? We'll try to use the ajna to create perspective. We'll try to use the throat to manifest all of the things all of the time. We'll try to use the G center to say, well, if someone just loved me, if someone just loved me, then I would know where I was going in life. And we do these things to ourselves. And we try all of these different methods that, you know, it's like I describe the undefined centers as like the mannequin behind the store window. You look at the clothes on the mannequin and you're like, dang, that looks so good.
Yeah.
I want to put that on and I want to look that good, right? And it looks so good through the window. And so you go buy it and you take it home and you're not in the harsh lighting, right? You're just in your bathroom and you're in your body that's not a mannequin body. And you put on these clothes and you're like, well, dang, I'm not enough. And that's not me. And who am I, right? And this is what we do to ourselves in the undefined center. So turning back to what's consistent for you, but also allowing that to express in the way that it's meant to and not trying to force it to be or do something. The root center works in a pulse. So I get a burst of momentum and then I have to pull back. And I didn't understand that my root needed to like kind of charge back up again. And so I was always attaching myself to that burst of momentum and I didn't allow myself to pull back and thus burnout. And so now I've created this trust within my body to say, with my spleen, I always know what's good, safe, and healthy for me if I listen. And I always know my next burst of momentum is coming. And so in the in-between time, I don't have to be scared. I don't have to be ashamed. In the in-between time, I can trust that my body will take me where I'm supposed to go. And so in every chart, there's this unique way that the energy centers communicate with each other and thus express through you in a very consistent way that you can rely on. And you can say, okay, I trust myself. I trust my body. And anytime I see something in the shiny window, I can say, that's interesting. And that's not me. And I don't need to put that on to be worthy or to be valid or to be excited or to move forward in life, right? That it can exist and I can observe it and I can say, okay, that's cool. That's fun. But I know who I am and where I'm going and what I want to do with my energy. And thus I have nothing to prove to anyone anymore.
That's awesome. The open centers, like when I started learning about it, obviously I went to, started with the strategy and authority, because that's sort of what was, front and center. It was easier for me to understand. And then looking at the centers. So if you're looking at your body graph, what we're talking about is anything that is not colored in. So if it's white, basically, it depends on what graph you're looking at, but sometimes they're colored different colors, but it's either solid or not solid, basically. And generators and manifesting generators tend to have, tell me if I'm wrong, we tend to have, I feel like, more defined centers, but there's some projectors who do have, there's special projectors, right? Like mental projectors. There's different types of projectors that have like different centers that are colored in. But when someone is looking at their body graph and let's say, all the centers that are not colored in. So the open centers, like what she was talking about, what is something that we can do to really support ourselves with that? So for instance, for me, I have an open head center, right? And I don't know for sure if this is a factor of that, but I find that, I get all these great ideas. I do. I have like these great ideas, and I tend to want to do a lot of things, right? When I get excited about something. But if I try and sit down and force myself to come up with something, like if I'm like, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to flush it out right now and get it all done. If I do that, I might be able to get it done, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be a little taxing. I'm going to feel exhausted, and it's not going to come as easy. If I let myself just like not think about it for a little bit, it just sort of drops in. Like when I'm out for a walk or, doing something else. Is that an open head center thing? Like because I've heard that's sort of a factor with people who have that center open, that we just have to like let things drop in. Have you seen that too?
So I want to say that a majority of people have their crown undefined. Because there are only 3 gates there, it's not as common to have it colored in. And so this is going to be something that's impactful for most people.
Oh, okay.
Our undefined centers, the ones that are not colored in our chart, can be really good sources of wisdom. They can be our playground. They can be fun if we have the awareness that that's a possibility. But if we're not in the awareness of what is consistent for us or what isn't, it becomes this massive distraction, because you keep coming back and saying, why can't I make it? Mm-hmm. Why can't I make it? Right. So for you with this undefined crown, and for anyone, you're going to be in your head and you're going to create this, it's a pressure center. So you're going to create all of this mental pressure around, how can I relieve confusion? How can I relieve doubt? How can I answer the question? How can I solve the mystery? What is the right answer? Who has the right answer? Where can I get the answer I need to know?
Yeah.
It is the pressure to know. That's the pressure that it creates. And so we see this in our entire society, because like I said, like 70% of people have this undefined. And so we have places and platforms like TikTok that give us all of these stimulating things to think about, and it creates even more pressure to know. And when we try to act, right, when we try to initiate from that center, whether it's defined or undefined, whenever we try to act from this crown center, which is a pressure center, all we really do is give ourselves a headache. Because we just create more mental pressure. Questions are unlimited, and so are answers in this reality. I mean, you can literally never stop as soon as you get that turned on. And so when you say, oh, that's a distraction for me, I'm going to be aware that this pattern of thoughts is a distraction. And I'm going to say, hello, distraction, welcome back. It's never going to not be that way. Hello, distraction, welcome back. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. And so when you have that type of awareness and that type of trust in your body, and you pull that energy back and you say, okay, distraction is back, but there's nothing to do, then you allow your authority. Okay, so your way of making decisions, your authority is going to be based on your definition, is based on what centers you have colored in or not. So for you, for example, Renee, your emotional authority, you're going to get this like stimulating thought, right? And this new possibility. It's going to be so exciting. And you're going to say nothing to do. And then you're going to ride your emotional wave, right? You're just going to experience all of the highs and the lows and all of the depth and the thoroughness of whatever is possible or whatever has come into your aura, however it came in, based on all of your openness in the way that your energy works, right? You're going to allow something to come in, and you're just going to sit back and you're going to say, I have to be patient. I have to be patient with myself and my energy, and I have to set boundaries around the time it takes for me, because I'm a very deep and thorough person. And thus, if I act on a thought in an instant, it's going to just take me into my distraction. But if I allow myself to sit with my thoroughness, and if I decide on something based on my thoroughness, then my energy will sustain in the way that it's meant to. But if you enter into something in a very impatient way, then you're always fighting against what the energy that you naturally create, which is an energy of depth and thoroughness. Like, you want to spend some time with it. And if you're bumping up against something that's impatient with you, then you start to feel like something's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with you. You're just a very deep and thorough person. And about 50% of people have this authority, which is solar plexus. It's on the right side. It's like the little right triangle. Have this solar plexus authority where they create emotional depth for all of us. Like Adele is emotional authority. Amy Winehouse was emotional authority. They help us feel the things because they're willing to be patient with their feels. So being able to say, okay, this is my not self-distraction, and this is how I make a decision that's aligned with my energy, lets you just kind of like sit there and balance the scales of what my energy wants to do or not. It doesn't mean like, okay, I snapped my fingers and I told you what it is and now you're forever changed. We're always going to be distracted. We're always going to find things that are inspirational. We'll always have more questions and more answers. It can't not be. But having that awareness and telling yourself nothing to do, my body, based on my authority, tells me when there's something to do. So for you, it's when you can commit your depth and thoroughness. With someone who's sacral authority, it's when they can't not because they're so excited. Someone like me who's splenic authority, the only question I ask is this good, safe, and healthy for me in this now moment? So my experience is to be very present and to be here right now, because all I'm doing is my little lizard brain, like, am I good? Are we good? Are we happy? Or do we feel good? What do we need to feel good? And that's where the feel good expert came from. Someone who's ego authority, they're kind of asking more of the question of, do I feel motivated to do this? Do I have the willpower? Like, is this something that I want to prove? Is this something that I want to promise? And then going over to the G center of a self-projected projector, they have to ask, is this on my path? Does this align with who I really am, right? And so this authority goes all the way up. We go to a mental projector who has nothing below the throat defined, and they have to really check in with their environment, because their environment has to be somewhere that invites all of this mental stimulation that they create. And then a reflector having nothing defined, nothing that's consistent in their own body, they have to rely on their environment and the transits. And so they're kind of always watching the moon cycles and saying, okay, if it isn't me, then how can I assess what is outside of me and make a decision that is aligned? Like we just had a new moon in Cancer. And so a lot of times people on a new moon feel this initiative, right? And they feel this energy, and they feel like planting the seeds of something new. And then on a full moon, we feel like, oh, we need to release, we need to calm down, we need to relax. And so just a reflector or anyone knowing that that exists helps you make a more aligned decision, because you're like, oh, I'm not going to judge and shame myself and say, I'm not going to make a decision from my lowest low. And I'm also not going to make a decision from my highest high. I'm going to kind of like allow all of it to exist and take in this information, and then let my body lead if I have an inner authority, and let my environment lead if I don't.
That's so cool. It's so interesting and like deep. I love it. I feel like it's overwhelming to me sometimes. Like when I start like thinking about all the things, right? I get like, oh my gosh, because I have like this deep desire to like really know it and understand it. And then I have to realize like, I probably will never truly fully understand it, right? It's part of the journey. Like, it's just like life, right? It's like the journey is the whole deal, right? It's like who you become on the way. That's really the whole deal. And so looking at it as like a really fun opportunity to learn more about yourself, what lights you up. It's really helped me so much. And just since learning about human design, like before I I've always been, I've been a self-help, geek for a long time. I was listening to Tony Robbins before it was cool. And I love everything about the world of, self-help and psychology. And, I have a degree in psychology. So I'm always like really into that learning. But it wasn't until I really learned about human design that I gave myself that permission to, if it's not lighting me up, it's a no. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. and really honoring that. Like that was really, really hard for me, I have to say. And I think it's hard for, I think most of us who've been conditioned in that way, to really listen to it, because whether, especially as entrepreneurs, like creative entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general, if you own your own business, everything relies on you, right? Like if you don't work, if you're not out there bringing in clients, you don't see the results monetarily. And then that is catastrophic. So you get like this pressure of, well, I need to be out there. I need to be making money and I need to be doing, not realizing that the more you say yes to all the things that aren't lighting you up, the more closed off your capacity is, possibly your aura. You could speak to that a little bit, but you're closing yourself off to all of this that wants to come in. And so there's so much freedom and space and openness when you say no to things that are really a no, but it's scary. So how can people use their human design to support that decision? You know what I mean? Like, what are some reminders or some things that you tell your clients? Like, yes, it's going to feel scary to say no to things that you know are not good for you. How can you move through that? Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great question. It's kind of funny because the way that I describe it in my own body is like if someone brings an opportunity to me and they're like, here's this, and let's do this. And all of these things are available. And I feel mentally stimulated. I feel like, oh, that's logical. That makes sense. Right. And you start to like create all of these paths in your mind to make it a yes, right? To try to create this yes out of something that your body might not agree with. Like you just have this inner sense that it's like, it sounds right, but it doesn't feel right. And so the way that I respond to people typically is like, I am mentally stimulated by what you're saying. What you're saying is so interesting to me. What you're saying makes total sense, and my body won't go. Body won't go. And that works for a lot of the, a large percentage of the different authority types that we have in human design. We're meant to trust our body more than we go up into the mind. No one's decision-making process is in the mind, if that helps, right? There's not even a single type that says, oh yeah, use your mind to decide. Not even a mental projector. They're still environment. So no one is meant to use their mind to decide things. And so when you feel like you're going down that path of rationalization, trying to reason with yourself, trying to make it make sense, trying to only apply your energy to logic, this is where you'll find that you start to shame yourself. Like, well, it made sense, but then it didn't feel right. Why? Or it was the most logical thing, but then it didn't pay off. Why? And when you switch that mode and you say, well, I'm going to do what my body tells me to do. Like in my own life, I have so much evidence of someone presenting with me with just the best case scenario, right? Like this is the most logical, best thing you could ever imagine. You got to do it. It makes total sense. And me saying body won't go, and then getting evidence later on that there was a very profound and unseen reason that would have been horrific or catastrophic for me to engage in, right? Or it would have, like I was saying with your emotional authority, it would have asked me to commit my energy in a way that isn't consistent and would have kept me in this not self pattern of trying to make myself be someone that I'm not. And so when you use your authority to decide instead of your mind, you get to be who you are throughout the process of that decision, because that's how you entered into it. You get to maintain that level of consistency because that's how that was the expectation you had going in. But if you go from the pressure of the mind and try to make it make sense, then that is what you will consistently do throughout that opportunity, is constantly trying to rationalize it, constantly trying to make excuses for that person or that environment or whatever that thing is. And like I said, I've seen so much evidence in my own life, and I was even kind of feeling my way through that last night with the new moon in Cancer. Like, yeah, I took the logical path. I did what society told me to do, and it led me to something that was very, very challenging and very, very depleting and very overwhelming. And it took so much energy and time and space to like uncover what was me underneath the whole time. because I created these patterns in my mind of doing the logical thing instead of letting my body say, well, this, no matter what society says, no matter what so-and-so says, right? No matter what my boss says, no matter what my partner says, this is what my body says. And my body doesn't lie to me. People will have very compelling reasons to deceive you or to get you to do what is most beneficial to them.
And your mind.
Yeah. Too. And in your mind all the time. Oh yeah. The mind. Oh my gosh. The narratives that we can create. And so when you are able to bring into awareness and say, I made that up, or someone just made that up. It's all made up. But my body, and this is me being very splenic, right? My body will intuitively know. My body will intuitively know what's right for me. And just because it's right doesn't mean it won't be hard, right? It doesn't mean that I might not have to step outside of my comfort zone and challenge myself a little bit, but it will support me energetically, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's really about knowing you're relying on that authority, your strategy, like you were talking about, your strategy. So everybody has a strategy, right? And you'll see that on your chart when you download it. For mine is to respond. And is it all manifesting generators and generators are to respond? Are we all sacral? Is that right?
Yes. Well, you're not all sacral. You're either emotional or sacral, but your strategy, the way you manage your aura.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm an emotional.
Is to respond, and your authority, the way you make decisions, is emotional. Your specific chart.
Okay. So relying on those, yes, exactly. Which is interesting, which is so funny. When I found that out, I was like, really? Because I never really, I don't know. If you had asked me, I never really thought of myself as a super emotional person. But then when I realized what it really meant and kind of dug deeper into the whole emotional authority, and like you said, riding that wave and letting it sort of like take me, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then it was like, okay, I get it. But so what you're saying is, and this is really interesting because I feel like one of the main issues that I see so many of my clients and people just in my audience go through is the overthinking. That creative brain, that active brain especially, but everyone is so prone to this overthinking. And I think it has so much to do with just overstimulation in general. We're so overstimulated and saturated, across platforms and all these kind of things. And so we get to this space of overthinking. And so that's something I hear a lot is like, okay, well, I can't figure this out because they're running this loop, which like you said, no one really needs to be up there. That's not really how we're going to make those decisions. And so is that best, sort of practice at that point is to rely on, look at your chart and rely on your strategy to kind of guide you through that. Is that right? Is that a good sort of like at least basic understanding for people who are just kind of starting out?
Yeah. So each type has their strategy. And so generators and manifesting generators, because they have the same aura shape, they have the same strategy, which is to wait to respond. And then we also have each type has a signature and a not self theme. And so this is going to be your telltale sign if you're lining up with your aura or not. And so as a generator or manifesting generator, your strategy is to respond. And if you are responding, you are getting this feeling of satisfaction, meaning my energy wants to go there. I put my energy there. I exhausted my energy there, and I feel so satisfied by it. And your not self theme as a generator, manifesting generator, is frustration. And thus, I don't know where to put my energy because I'm not waiting to respond. I'm going out and I'm initiating things, and I'm getting confused and I'm getting overwhelmed. And now I'm going into all my not self centers, right? So that is what's going to tell you if you're lining up with your aura or not. For a projector, it is success versus bitterness. So we're waiting to be invited. And if we haven't waited to be invited, we offer something for nothing. And then we get very bitter when someone doesn't use that advice, right? When they take our energy for granted because it's a limited resource, this sacral energy, especially. They take our energy for granted. They don't take our advice. They don't see us as wise. They don't see us as guides. We don't even see ourselves. We don't feel recognized. We don't feel validated. We don't feel honored. And so we get bitter and we're like, well, screw all of you. I'm never going to help anybody again, right? But when we line up with our strategy of to wait to be invited, we get to pull all of our energy back to ourselves, focus on our areas of expertise, focus on our systems, focus on managing our energy, take freaking naps if we want to, and not even be ashamed of it, right? And when someone comes in with that aligned invitation, and then we provide something that helps them manage their energy, we feel success. We feel like, oh my gosh, I did something, right? Like I was able to create this efficiency and it worked and it helped. And now I feel successful. So for a projector, it's not like material success, right? It's not like, oh, if you're a projector, you have to want to be a CEO. It's not that. It's success in helping the other types manage their energy well. I mentioned manifestors earlier, and I think I did. Well, no, maybe I didn't. I mentioned the manifestor aura type earlier, and the manifestors don't want to be inhibited. And so when they're able to go on their own flow and do their own thing, they feel peaceful. That's what a manifestor is going for. They're going for this feeling of peace. Like I can just do what I need to do and nobody's going to stand in front of me. But when someone does come and impede because they're not informing, because they're not keeping people in the loop, then they get anger, right? Sometimes even rage, because it's like, why can't I just do what I need to do? Like, leave me alone. Let me at peace so that I can follow my impulses, so that I can initiate. Because when I need to initiate, I go 200% and then I'll come back. But I have all of this energy pushing me toward 200%. And if someone jumps in front of me, can you imagine? Can you imagine how mad that's going to make me? And then lastly, the reflector aura, they're waiting a lunar cycle because they need to just be present in this moment. They need to be able to be surprised and delighted by what comes in, right? They need to be able to get out of all of these not self themes of trying to keep up with other people's energy so that they can be very available. And when they attach to a specific outcome, or when they compare to other types, or when they try to make things happen when their body doesn't want to go with them, then they feel disappointed. Or when they feel like they haven't been included and they can't be put at the center of something where they can surprise you with how much they know about the way that energy is moving and about this environment, and being able to kind of sense into something that's not physically evident, then they get just so very disappointed. And it's, as you kind of learn about the different types, you see that expressed so clearly. Every time I've posted about reflectors, they come in with disappointment. I'm disappointed that I'm a reflector. I didn't want to be like this. I wanted to have energy, right? When I post about projectors, they come in and they feel bitter, right? Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Nobody listens to me. I'm not an expert at anything. When I post about manifestors, you're like, yes, I'm freaking angry. Why won't anybody leave me alone, right? And when I post about generators, they come in with their frustration, like, what do I do with all this energy? Or where is my energy? Why can't I find it? Why isn't there anything to respond to? I'm going every direction. I feel so frustrated. And so when you start to just kind of like observe the auras and their functions, it's almost like you can't not see it. And so you can't not see it in yourself. And then you're able to contextualize your environments. You can't not see it in others. And now you honor yourself for how you just are, and just how you're built, and you honor others for how they're built. And now we're able to work together in this symbiosis, right? We allow the manifestors to be the ones to initiate. We allow the projectors to guide. We allow the generators to tell us what is most exciting and to help us build all of the things, right? But we don't take advantage of them and try to make them build things that they don't want to, right? And then we pull in the reflectors and we're like, hey, how's it going? How are we doing, right? We include them and we bring them into this process in a very empowered way, instead of, the opposite of what we've been doing all of this time, which is very disempowering for every type.
That's such a great explanation of that. I love how it all just works so well together, when we are focusing on that and we have that awareness. I love it. Real quick, I wanted to touch on, because I see you talking about on your lives and on Instagram, and we're not going to go super deep into this, but I do think it's a little relevant, because in my world, especially like even with my coaching students, I've talked to them about their human design, and my goal is to help them, like I said, use this as a self-awareness sort of thing, and really help them understand how they're going to access their business better, how to live a better life, feel more aligned, all of those things. But you talk a lot about transits, and this is something I know nothing about. So, so my question may be very, really elementary here, but the point I wanted to make is that something, is human design something that, what is the benefit basically? What is the benefit of someone coming in and working with someone like you on a consistent basis? Like, because, at first when I start looking at my human design, I thought, okay, well, this is my chart. This is just who I am, blah, blah, blah. I will learn about it and I will figure it out and I will, I will do those things. But then it was like, oh, wait, there's transits, like things are happening, and how is that going to affect me? And like, what? Now I got to what? And so is that part of that benefit of like working with someone and really like getting that guidance? Is that something that you do for your clients basically? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And I love to talk about transits and also just like how your energy shifts based on where you are, right? Like who are you standing next to? What environment are you in?
Oh, okay.
Because having this very thorough understanding of yourself, right? So you're going to have your natal chart, your body graph, all of the information that was present at the exact moment of your birth. Okay. So like that's it. That's the skeleton. It doesn't go away. So a transit will never take away from your chart and what's consistent for you. It's going to add in energy that wasn't there before. And so will a relationship when you're standing next to another person, or when you are in an environment, or you're, in a work setting, or you're working in a group, you're going to add on to what you have and you will feel something new. And so in human design, we are always looking at the self versus the not self. And so when you know who you are and what's consistent for you, and you know this like blueprint of you, then you can look at the transits, or you can look at a relationship, or you can look at an opportunity. You can say, what's coming that's going to amplify who I already am? So in a transit, it's going to take your chart and it's going to overlap. So say, for example, me, I only have these two defined centers, but something comes through that kind of plugs in to one of my hanging gates. So a hanging gate is where you see like half of a line in a channel.
Okay.
Channel is you see the whole line connecting two energy centers. A hanging gate is half of it. Something could come and plug in to my hanging gate, and now all of a sudden I feel this flow where flow wasn't before. And so I can use that amplification of my energy to my benefit without getting attached to it, because I have the awareness that it's a transit. I can partner with specific people. I can look at a relationship chart, which this is something that's free on my website. Like once you pull your chart, you can click relationship chart. You can type in a second person's info, or you can just type in today's date to get the transit. So you add in another person or a transit to your chart, and then you say, okay, what's here now? And now when you're in partnership, you can say, okay, these are the things that are brand new and sparky and chemistry, and things are flowing. And it wasn't like that before, but it is now. And that's exciting. And these are the places where I feel like I have friendship, and this person gets me because we have the same. These are the places where I feel like I might have to compromise a little bit because this person maybe has a little bit more energy there than I do. And then these are the places where this person is showing me myself, right? So I have something in me that expresses through me inevitably, and they're reflecting it back to me. So all of that kind of shows up. But typically when I work with clients, we spend a lot of time knowing and accepting and having awareness of self and not self, so that then you can layer on, okay, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. And now who can I partner with, and what comes from that? What's brand new and exciting? What transit is coming next? When will my throat be defined again and I won't be able to stop talking? Let me go batch my content during that time. And then when it goes away, I'm not going to be mad at myself. I'm not going to say, oh, I suck at batching content because I can only do it once a month. I'm going to say, wow, I'm amazing because I batch a content every month, because these transits are always going around in this loop, and I know it's coming. And so I trust it. And then I don't get mad at myself, on a random Tuesday where I'm like, oh, so many things to do. Why can't I just do everything on my to-do list today? The energy isn't there. So you begin to know what you have the energy for on a consistent basis, how your energy functions, how you make decisions, what your aura does naturally. And you use that to your advantage. And then you also add in these amplifications if you choose to. But it's very important to have this like familiarity with your energy and how it works, and understanding that transits happen allow you to differentiate and allow you to say, oh, I did feel that way one time. And that's because of this thing that passed through or this person that passed through. And when it went away, I can go back to what is consistently me and I can feel safe there. I don't have to be mad about it anymore.
I love that so much. Like, oh my gosh, it's like my mind is going a mile a minute on this. I love that because I never really even sort of entertained that thought until I started seeing some of your content. And I'm like, oh my God. And I totally get it. Because it makes so much sense. Like, yes, that understanding, but also I love being able to, I'm always talking to my community about like, if it's not there, if it's not, you're not feeling it, like, don't force it, walk away, come back to it, like figure it. But being able to use human design to know like when that would be happening or how, and I love that you have that on your site. So we're going to wrap up and segue into that right now. Cause I want people to, first of all, know where to find you, let us, I'm going to list all this in the show notes, but tell us your site. And I love that we can go there and get tools like that because that is super fun. I'm 100% doing that. And tell everybody how you like to connect best, like where, what platforms you like to connect as well. Cause this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
So amazing. Thank you so much. And we're going to have to do a follow-up episode where we talk about profile numbers because that is another passion of mine.
We didn't even get to it.
We didn't even get to that. We're going to come back to that. But I'm the Feel Good Expert. That's my website is the Feel Good Expert. My TikTok handle is the Feel Good Expert. I'm on Pinterest as the Feel Good Expert. I'm on Instagram as the Feel Good Expert. I'm on YouTube as the Feel Good Expert. I have a blog, and I also have an email list. It's all the Feel Good Expert. But because of my profile, I'm a first line. And a first line is all about foundational knowledge. And so I'm really living my design by providing the foundation that you need to get started, right? So it's important to me for you to have this basic knowledge and have it for free. Like I'm giving it to you. Have this basic knowledge and this basic understanding so then you can do what we talked about before. Manage your energy and make a decision that's aligned with who you are and where you're going in life and what's meant for you. Don't make a decision based on what I tell you. So I provide all of this foundational knowledge so that you can begin your experiment in a very aligned way with no hurdles, right? With no gatekeeping, with no obstacles to being able to live how you're meant to live. So I teach all of the basics of human design and I give you logical tools. And again, on all of those platforms. And the number one thing that I wanted to create when I got started was a way to kind of like get a free mini reading because I felt like it was so hard for me to just get the basic stuff. Everything was a money hurdle. Everything was an information hurdle. I had to go and scour and read all of the things and do all of the things. And so when you go on my website, thefeelgoodexpert.com, when you type in your info, you'll notice that all of the chart properties are links. And all of those links are free video explanations. And so it is exactly like a free mini reading with me. It's exactly what I would tell you if you were sitting in front of me on a Zoom call. And I think it's important to have that foundation before you decide what you're going to do next with this knowledge, right? Once you know how to make a decision that's aligned with your energy, once you know how to get out of that not self-talk, then you go and say, oh, I want to use this for business, or I want to use this in parenting, or I want to use this in relationships, or this makes absolutely no sense and I hate it and I want it to go away, right? No matter what, you can go and get that basic foundation so that you can decide what's best with your energy. So I love that that is a feature on my website. I also just started offering personalized reports. So if you wanted to be able to kind of hold on to that data in a PDF style, it's listed right underneath the chart properties. It's $27, but I do have a code for $5 off that makes it $22. The code is feel good and the number 5. This report is written by me and I'm a 1-3 and we'll talk about profiles now, but it's clear, it's concise. We get right to the point. It's a quick reference tool that helps you live your design. And I added in a few extra features that don't show in the chart properties. So it allows you to kind of understand what motivates you. It allows you to go a little bit more into your psychology than the basic chart info, but always start with understanding your strategy and authority. Entertain all of the other different parts of your chart and hold it in your awareness. But remember, the only thing to do is strategy and authority. And the videos that I have on that are very informative and it gives you very practical tools to get started.
That is amazing that you have all of that. Holy smokes. Yeah, no, we for sure are going to have to do a follow up because this could be like a 3-hour episode. I know you could talk about it all day, but I definitely could too. Like this is like, oh my gosh, that's so right up my alley.
Good.
And yes, the profile is super, super interesting once you figure it, because figuring out that 2-4 for me was like, oh yeah. Okay. It really was awesome too, because I was able to really explain to my husband, just as a side note, who is not a 2-4, that, that too, there's a reason why I need to be alone and I got to go to my cave and I got to be away from people. And like, that is how I'm going to get my energy. And he always knew that about me, but like, I'm an INTJ. So I always sort of like threw it on the whole introvert thing. But then I was like, no. I started explaining human design to him. And of course I led with his human design so that he would be super interested in it. And he was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I told him about mine too. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So it was like a nice little, this is why I need that. And so this is why I'm so much more, effective. And I have so much more energy when I'm able to do that. So anyway, yes, that is a whole podcast in and of itself. You guys go to her site, just start there, and we will definitely have her back. And I'm going to have Tangie come in and talk to Elevate, my group coaching, because we're going a little bit deeper with them because I love this so much. But thank you so much for being here with us today. I've loved chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing. And I appreciate, as a projector, I really appreciate the invitation.
You got it. I could have had that discussion for hours. As I'm sure you could tell, I super geek out on all this stuff. Like, it is just so much fun. I love the self-awareness that we can get from it. There's some really awesome takeaways from this episode that, I think you could get for sure. The overthinking, right? The overthinking and the burnout piece that really were big takeaways for me, and a different lens to look at those things through, looking at it through the lens of human design and realizing how when you're not living in design, and we are going to continue pushing, then that is that recipe for burnout. So learning how we can lean more into our design, live in it, and stop pushing so hard so that we can open up to everything else around us and that's waiting for us. And then the overthinking, I know a lot of you guys can identify with, let's get out of our heads, back in our bodies, listening to our strategy, listening to our design, and really allowing ourselves to feel more as well and not just think all the time. I mean, that's just really good advice no matter what, whether we're talking about human design or not, because overthinking is just the killer of creativity and anything good in your life. I always say, we're not going to logic ourselves, to the answer. We have to figure out a way to open up to it. And human design is a really great tool for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any other questions about human design, please reach out to Tangie. She is a wealth of knowledge and has, like she said, amazing resources on her website that are linked below in the show notes. Or reach out to me too. Tag me on social if you guys post about this. Make sure you tag both of us. I'm at Renee Bowen. We'll put all the links for her as well, for her socials, so that you guys can find us and tag us and share your takeaways from this episode. And my Elevate members, you guys are going to get more of Tangie next month because she's popping into our group coaching, and she's going to take your questions, and she also has your charts. And so we're going to do a little bit of Q&A with her, which is going to be super fun. I can't wait for that. If you want to join Elevate, there's still time. There's always time. You can join at any time. And I'm going to put that link for you guys again in the show notes as well. So that's it for now. Have a wonderful week and be good to yourself. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.